Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey through the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Joy,
And I'm Tris.
and for today's episode, we're watching the third and fourth serials of Season 7, The Ambassadors of Death and Inferno, and this is also finishing Season 7 as well.
Wow.
I think they're pretty good stories still.
Yeah.
The Ambassadors of Death, I loved that it was like a false flag operation, basically, where, the aliens aren't the bad guys. It's the humans trying to make people think the aliens are the bad guys.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of really interesting elements to it that kind of felt like something out of a spy movie.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool actually. There was a lot of really cool ideas here, but I mean, kind of a running thing that we've talked about with classics. I just don't think it wrapped up very well, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. And the Doctor was fiddling with his TARDIS console at the beginning. And had a little funny scene there.
Yeah, the funny little scene of the cup of coffee, just kind of being given back and forth,
Yeah.
or tea or whatever it was.
And I kind of liked that he mentioned he was still upset at Brig for killing the Silurians, although it kind of never played into the picture at all.
Yeah, that was kind of just their way of having some continuity to tell you where this takes place, not too long after.
Yeah. And then the Doctor weirdly can just, transmigrate objects, I guess. I don't know where he got that power from. He can just make them disappear and then reappear.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird little moments. Or, sending very specific places, just a few seconds to the future.
Yeah. Although he said with, the film canister, he didn't send it in the future. He was just... He called it transmigrating stuff. And I don't know what that means.
That's definitely just playing up the weirdness of the Doctor and the fact that he's alien, the things that he can do.
Yeah.
Although, it's worth noting, too, a lot of that opening scenes for them, they were in the TARDIS there, weren't they?
No, they...
Or was it just the console
Yeah, it's
taken
just the
out?
console taken
Just,
out. Not in the TARDIS
Okay.
itself.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just in the next episode where it's just the console taken out. Okay, I actually couldn't tell in that case if it was just a heavily redesigned TARDIS interior.
I don't think
that
they
first
really... In Modern Who, or in Classic Who, I don't think they really redesign it much. I think,
Okay.
the Fourth Doctor has, a second TARDIS console room. Otherwise, it's always just going to be, the white console room.
Okay. I know the TV movie, The Eighth Doctor,
Yeah.
is a whole thing.
Yeah,
That's
that one
different,
changes it.
Yeah, quite a lot.
They change it slightly, I think, between Doctors, but it's more or less going to look the same.
Yeah, that's more of a modern thing where they really change it up a lot. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, there's such a fascinating story in this one.
Yeah, I definitely think it runs a bit longer than it needs to, though.
Yeah, it's true.
I definitely think they kind of run in circles a little too much for the story they're trying to tell, that it kind of just makes you frustrated at everybody the Doctor's having to deal with.
Yeah. It's like Taltalion betrays them in the first opening minutes, and then he gets to come back and still work there later. But then you realize, it's
Yeah.
because the people in charge are also traitors.
Yeah, that was his whole song and dance. It's well, clearly now you know not to trust him the entire rest of the time, but okay, I guess.
And then he just
And
kills himself by accident.
Yes, kills himself by accident. A bunch of people in charge end up dying for what kind of just feels like no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you have the corrupt general that talks about it being a moral duty, but he's actually just corrupt with power and delusional.
Yeah.
Which is wild. But you would think I don't know, I feel like it was so obvious, halfway through, and then they kind of just spent too long having the characters then also have to figure it out.
Yeah. I did kind of like that, the general's... he only hates the aliens because he ran into them before, and they killed his partner. So, it's...
Yeah.
You can kind of understand where he's coming from, Obviously, he's still
Right.
going a bit too far with it, but
I mean, he's hell bent on intergalactic war.
yeah. Well, you can understand why he did it, and even the Doctor says that at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Like at least to tell him so. Like he understands why. This
Yeah.
isn't. Oh, there's an unknown threat. We should stop it before they stop us.
Yeah.
But it's actively more of a revenge plot.
And I kind of like that they like arrested him instead of having like the big showdown and he has to get killed and stuff.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
went quietly.
I do think that was more impactful.
Yeah.
That was more impactful. But it is kind of funny how all that happens. The Doctor nearly handshakes the alien ambassadors and then just walks off and it's done.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like, despite how long they dragged out the story, where it definitely could have wrapped up sooner, ending like at that scene just felt kind of sudden. Like there's not any. We're not gonna learn why the ambassadors came down in the first place. We're not gonna have any actual like interactions. Like we send up ambassadors with them of our own or anything like that. We're just nope. Day is saved. All is done. General stopped. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Sure, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely could have characterized the ambassadors a bit better and like told us what they wanted. They just weren't concerned with that.
Yeah, they weren't concerned about that, and also when you finally get to hear them, they're like, "Why do you make us kill?" It's like they're not. I mean, they're just giving you instructions. You don't have to follow the instructions.
Yeah.
Like I understand it's the do it or we'll kill you. We won't give you enough radiation, but like, you could just stop them.
Yeah.
Like, I thought maybe it was just a case of they didn't understand what they were doing or they couldn't see or something. So, like, they just really didn't know. But first thing you hear from them being, "Why do you make us kill?" It's like, well, now I don't know how to feel about all this. 'Cause,
Yeah.
come on.
I also found it funny that we only see what they look like for like 5 seconds in one of the episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Not
just
much.
like they
Not
just
much at all.
put a bunch of blue stuff on a person. And there you go.
Yep. And then they had the captured astronauts all along,
Yeah.
which, even regardless of the plans of what was happening on Earth with the general and all, why did they capture the astronauts and send down their own ambassadors?
Yeah.
Like, was that what was instructed to them to do by the general and others? I think that's what's implied.
Yeah, I'm not
But it's
really
still
too sure
weird.
about that.
Yeah, like the purpose behind it is still weird.
Yeah, because I guess you're supposed to think that like when they sent the signal at the beginning and then one was sent back, then they were given some instructions there.
Mm-hmm.
But we never really know like what was said in those broadcasts.
Yeah. Like, how does the general benefit from having those, like, have the ambassadors come down and kill people to start the war? Like, how, like, I understand, sure, that lets you start the war, but isn't it more dangerous to bring some of them down when you could have just made the case that they're gonna attack us? And I was able to translate the message. It's totally what it said. We should take them out now. Like, it was very roundabout.
Yeah.
It was very roundabout.
This was written by David Whittaker, but apparently it was so heavily rewritten that he hates the story. So
Interesting.
it was rewritten by like
I
a script
definitely
editor.
think
So you don't know exactly
definitely
what it would have
think-
been like before.
out of the 4 stories that we have for this season, it does, to me, feel like the weakest of them, and I wonder if that's why.
Yeah.
Because it just heavily changed so much from what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, because I kind of assume if it was just written by him, it probably would have been like even heavier political tones and stuff.
Yeah.
Because he likes doing that.
Yep.
Oh, and did you realize that, like the main Space Center guy is played by the same actor as one of the Dominators?
I did catch that.
Yeah.
I did catch that. I was like, he looks really familiar. I'm pretty sure he played a villain before. That's a little silly.
Yeah. It wasn't that long ago that he did that. It was just last season.
No, it wasn't. It's just now it's in color, so it's okay.
Yeah. And apparently, filming was delayed due to a reported UFO sighting, but then they found out that
Oh my god.
the UFO was their Recovery 7 prop. Oops.
Wait, that's hilarious, actually.
Yeah. It's very funny.
That's... Wow, okay. That's really funny.
And then this was also the introduction of the cliffhanger sting, which
That's
Ethan
true.
mentioned last time. Although they're not actually playing it over the cliffhanger. Instead, it's like at the start of the credits. Apparently,
Yeah.
next season it changes to be over the cliffhanger.
Okay. It is pretty silly. It is
Yeah.
pretty silly. There's something charming about it.
Yeah. Oh, and apparently the scene where they had like the whole helicopter chase and all that. Originally,
Yeah.
the producer said like we're just gonna have them like set up a fake roadblock and just pretend to be like a police officer, and that's how they're gonna steal it. And then the director was like, "No, we can do better than that." So then he dramatically overspent on the budget to do a helicopter chase instead.
I mean, it was a good scene. It was fun. It was
Yeah.
entertaining.
He said like, the producer got like angry at him for overspending the budget, and he's like, you were doing your job and I was doing my job. I just have to make it look fun. I don't care about the money.
You know what? Good on him.
Yeah.
Good on him. That's pretty funny.
And I kind of like that, like Bessie had like more stuff about in this one, like with the sticking people to it with the anti-theft device and all that stuff.
Yeah, the fact that the doctors like really messed around with this vehicle to have a lot of like quirky aspects to it's pretty great.
Yeah. I don't really have a lot more notes about this one. I'll be honest.
Yeah, the main thing I have about this one otherwise is it's got an interesting premise, and I like how it plays out like a spy movie, like I mentioned already. But it really does drag on longer than needed when
Yeah.
its villains get pretty clearly established early on, and it's just a matter of the main characters needing to figure it out for themselves. So it's just very slow paced.
Yeah.
Although I'm glad Liz got to do a lot here,
Yeah,
where
that's
once
true.
she was kidnapped, she wasn't just a damsel in distress. She basically became like by force, of course, like one of the main scientists involved with the aliens because she had no choice.
Yeah. And she kept trying to find ways to slow them down.
Mm-hmm. It was good. It was good. But I do think out of the 4 stories of this season, this was probably the weakest one.
Yeah. I think it's still pretty high up there in quality, but it's, the weaker of the 4. Because they're all very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I guess we can move on to Inferno. In Inferno, I had known there was an alternate universe plot in there beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I knew about it.
Okay.
I didn't know anything else about it, though.
I did not know anything about it going into this one, except I've seen like photos online over the years of the eye patch brigadier. So
Yeah.
when he turned around in the parallel universe or the alternate dimension or whatever the doctor called it, and you saw him, I was like, oh, that's what this is from. This makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah.
But what a good story, honestly.
Yeah. This one's
Like-
very good.
I love how this played with ideas that we as modern Doctor Who fans are familiar with, of parallel worlds that are running, well, parallel to
Yeah.
the main world, where the timeline is either the same or nearly the same. So events that happen in one are likely to happen in the other, or at least pretty similarly. So we get those like back and forth moments where we get progress updates on one versus what's actually happening in the other, but we can infer from the way they tell us it's also going to happen on the other, and I think
Yeah.
that's actually really cool.
They make sure they have a little line of the Doctor going like, "Oh, your technology's a bit faster than ours," so that
Yep.
they're slightly ahead.
Yep.
I did find it a bit funny how it's like we go to another universe for the first time and they destroy the entire Earth in that world. so we can never go
Yep.
back.
Yep, that one got destroyed, and nobody had a happy ending there outside of the Doctor getting out from there,
Yeah.
which was wild.
And apparently, when they were filming, when Nicholas Courtney had turned around with like his eye patch, apparently everybody else was wearing eye patches, and they pranked him like that. And then apparently Stephen Moffat heard about that and decided that was why he put everybody in eye patches in Wedding of River Song, which was very soon after Nicholas Courtney passed away.
I see. I see.
Apparently, when they pranked him like that, he just played the scene out just to pretend like he didn't notice anything was weird.
What a good actor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite silly. That's pretty funny.
Also,
That feels like a good prank.
yeah. I liked how they like slightly changed the name. It's Brigade Leader instead of Brigadier.
Yes. It's
Close.
Brigade Leader, and when the Doctor even mentions that after getting back,
Yeah.
Liz and the Brigadier even like exchange a look before answering. They're like, that's weird.
Yeah. I did notice though that when they get attacked by like the Primords is what they're called in the credits. Sutton accidentally calls the Brigade Leader Brigadier once, which is funny.
Spur of the moment, sounds close enough. Nobody caught it.
Yeah. I only noticed that on my second viewing of it, but yeah, it was funny.
Nice. But no, this story was really fascinating because ultimately what were they called? What did you say? What did you say they were called?
Primord.
Primords.
Primords.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Primords were not like actually like the main villains here.
Yeah.
They were a byproduct of the problem, but it wasn't like an alien. It wasn't like some invasion. It was let's not mess up the Earth. In fact.
Yeah.
Every threat they faced was a byproduct of a problem, and the main problem being the world's most stubborn scientist in existence.
Yep. Apparently, at this around like in the 60s, there were actually like attempts to penetrate the Earth's crust. Like they were essentially like while the space race was going on, they were also doing that with trying to get down to the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
So that's what inspired this all to happen. Because I noticed that like they've done this multiple times now. Like the Daleks wanted to get to the core of the Earth, and then there was Underwater Menace, and then now there's this. Yep. So you can tell that they were very concerned about like, well, if we do that, does it destroy the planet at that time? Yeah.
And we definitely probably have the strongest story of it here in terms of like how it's depicted and the message it gets across with it all. I definitely think it was done really well, and the performances of like everyone involved was also like really good. Like the head scientist becoming more and more insufferable with every interaction, and how each character takes it and starts to find him insufferable, I think was also like really well done.
Yeah, they all did very good jobs here, and I think Nicholas Courtney was a fantastic villain as well.
Yes.
He did a very good job.
He was, honestly.
Brigade Leader might even just be like the best villain of the season.
Yeah, actually. Because he really isn't even like a full-on villain.
Yeah.
Which is what's like fascinating. Like the way he's more, I guess, antagonist instead of villain is probably the better term. Because he's not necessarily evil. He's just very committed to the rules, but then also self-preservation.
Definitely fascinating though to have like essentially your companion be evil in a story, and it's not even like exactly the companion.
Yeah,
it's not like the companion's been brainwashed or anything.
Yeah, I think what I find most fascinating about this is the implications of just how much stays the same even if the Doctor wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because like the way it still got to this point, Liz still part of unit, but never, or not unit, but you know what they were in this case. The Brigadier being a brigade leader in this sense, like having a very similar role in this world, despite there being no aliens, no Doctor that are actively there, and the fact that like all the people involved in this were the same. Like it makes me think that like there's been a very like similar track that they were following the whole time. That the same events probably happened, but they got out in different ways. It's not like what you have nowadays of, oh, well, this universe didn't have the Doctor, therefore everything died. Like
Yeah.
it plays out differently, but you can kind of surmise enough has been similar, even though the Doctor wasn't there.
Yeah. There has been like some expanded universe content and stuff that further explored this world.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, because they basically said that like the origin is that the the fascist party in Great Britain rose to power, and that's basically
Yeah.
what happened. Some of that extended universe content has said that the leader of this fascist world is the Doctor, which is largely based on the fact that one of the regenerations shown to the second Doctor in the War Games looks vaguely similar to it, so they're like, hey, we can just say it's the same person.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah.
I like that idea. Actually. That's kind of cool.
And then, like, since Lethbridge-Stewart is such a main character, there's like a brigade leader book where it just went over his
wow.
personal history.
Wow.
Because, you know, the people that own the Lethbridge-Stewarts like doing stuff like that because they want to get
Yeah,
as much
that
money
makes
as they
sense.
can out of it.
And you want to really fully explore everything about the character and all versions of the character at that.
Yeah. I think this one definitely worked very well with 7 episodes, just because, like, 3 of them essentially are in that alternate universe.
Yeah, this one was paced very well.
I think it's like
for
4
that.
that they spend there. Because I think he leaves at the end of episode 2, if I remember correctly, and then gets back start of 7. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's gone for quite a while, but it doesn't slow down the pacing at all. Which is
Yeah.
good. Like, it's not like he repeats a good amount of the story to get to that point. Like, it continues moving along, even though the Doctor like changed tracks and moved to a different area.
Yeah.
It basically continues from exactly where it was, and that's pretty neat, actually. I have only one problem with this story, and it is the running thing that we keep mentioning throughout the classics of I don't think the ending quite wrapped up super well. I think it did a fairly good job overall, except for when it came to the goo and, you know, what it was doing to people. That kind of just got dropped.
Yeah.
They didn't, like, the fact that, like, I don't think any of them actually died. Just more people were getting infected as if they were touched. And the fire extinguisher never actually killed them, it just slowed them or knocked them out. So to do this to the main scientist, who was the only one that like fully transformed in the main universe,
Yeah.
while there were still other ones presumably around, surely that's not the end of that. But they kind of just dropped it.
Yeah, I
I
guess.
thought the Doctor would have done something to reverse it or contain it. No.
Yeah. They definitely rushed through the ending a bit, because I think they maybe could have had the Doctor come back a bit earlier, just so you can have a bit more time for the wrap-up.
Yeah.
Maybe give
Yeah.
you 2 episodes after he comes back.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Because instead they just have to rush through, like, shutting down the project. And that's all they do in the last episode.
It seems very simple comparatively.
Yeah.
Like
Once the
actually
scientist
shutting it down.
once the scientist is out of the way, they're just like, okay, we can just do this now. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's definitely a case of the ending felt a little bit rushed, but I don't know. I would have liked to see them explore more of the origins of why people are transforming like this and more of the goo, because it clearly played a big role, but all it really did is it seemed like it, I don't know, it was like the Earth's defense system or something for trying to pierce the crust, and, well, here you go. This is what you get for trying to do this, and you're just gonna accelerate it and make it worse. Like, it wasn't some sort of living threat that, you know, was buried deep in the earth and got unleashed. Yeah, I don't know. I thought they would have analyzed it or done something with it, but I don't know.
It's like the Doctor mentions that he he had heard it before in Krakoa when a volcano exploded too, and like so like he could explain more about what it is because he would probably know a bit more, but he just kind of doesn't.
Yeah. Nope. And it would have been nice if he did, but oh well, I guess.
Yeah. It does also feel a bit weird to me too that like the Doctor tries to leave in the middle of the story, which doesn't really feel like what he would normally do. Because like he's using the TARDIS to try to get the TARDIS working, and then just leaves when he knows there's a whole situation going on. And like
yeah, it's like everybody was like basically throwing him out, like demanding he leaves. He's like, fine, you know what? I don't need this. I'm just gonna leave. They can do this themselves.
Like the second Doctor was like very actively like, nope, I'm never leaving until we get everything resolved here. And then the third Doctor is just like, yep. I just want to get out of here. I want to get my TARDIS working. That's all I care about.
The third Doctor has discovered he has a limit to his patience.
Yeah. I did like how at the end he tells the Brigadier that he's an idiot, and then it's like, oh well, a TARDIS didn't actually go very far. I'm sorry. Well, he doesn't even say I'm sorry. He just says like, let's not hold any grudges.
Yeah. The Brigadier has to learn. All right, you know what? This is just who the Doctor is. I just gotta accept it.
Yep.
Man. But I think the head scientist, I think, was also like a very good antagonist to all this, because you see him like get worse and worse as time goes on. Like even before he's corrupted by the goo, the fact that like like people are dead, so that definitely has something to do with you. No, it doesn't. That's security. Oh, okay. Well, the Doctor's disappeared. There was an experiment gone wrong. Oh, finally, he's out of my hair. Oh, okay. Oh, Sir Keith is missing. Oh, well, good. Now he's gone. Like, oh, wow. This man is like really not good.
Yeah.
Like and then even when like Sir Keith comes back, oh, the minister who you were certain was going to take your side says you have to stop. He's like, oh, well, he could tell me that after I finish. Like, wow. And we thought the scientist from the Underwater Menace was like really self-absorbed. Wow.
At least we know that he wasn't concerned about Sir Keith disappearing because like he was the reason why he disappeared. We know that part.
Yeah. That's still awful.
Yeah. He just is very insistent that like he needs to find this Stallman's gas that he hypothesized exists.
To the point where he'll sabotage a computer because it tells him either he's wrong or that it's going to counteract him by saying we should stop. Like, damn. I don't think I've ever seen an ego that bad.
And then he sabotages the computer in both universes. Just funny.
Yep. It's very similar, in fact.
Apparently, originally, they were going to have the Doctor take a microcircuit from the alternate universe and bring it back to fix their computer. And then they just went like, we'll just fix it. We don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, I imagine that, there would have to be other ones,
Yeah.
Or, someone can make one real quick. It doesn't need to be the same exact, because I feel like that wouldn't have gone well either, because the parallel world, their tech was a little more advanced, so.
Yeah. And then Greg Sutton was a very good character in this as well.
Yes, he was. Although I feel like his parallel world version didn't really work in that world.
Yeah. He just kind of was like the only person in the other universe that was talking any sense. And then that was it.
But that also doesn't make sense in the context of that world and the way it was set up. He very much seemed like a man out of place.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't meant to, like he felt like the one from the main universe, which is what was so weird about it.
I think they mentioned
because
that
the context for go ahead.
They mentioned that he's like from Australia or something, I think, so it's like that's your explanation, is that like he's not from the British fascist world here. He's from a different country.
But it's still kind of a case of with the way it was set up in the parallel world where it was like slave labor. He shouldn't have been there then.
Yeah. It is a bit odd.
Like that's part of what I mean of like he really like stands out there in part because he doesn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
With with that, because he was very much still the same person he was in the main universe, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Sutton was definitely a really good character.
I guess you're supposed to think that like Sir Keith from that world brought him over, and like Sir Keith from that world was getting in their way, so they killed him. So
Yeah.
yeah. I did also find it funny that like it's deadly fire extinguishers again, which is what the Daleks used in the movies.
That's true. That's true.
And the Doctor uses his Venusian karate to paralyze people.
Yeah, that's our real first time getting that, I think. Which
Yeah.
is still really, really funny.
Yeah.
And I love how he's even like, threatening, like, oh, if done long enough, it's permanent paralysis. And it's like, well, you should probably stop then, shouldn't you?
Yep. I found it funny, like, when he did it on the Professor, it's just like, well, while you have him paralyzed, tell the Brigadier to go into his pocket. And there you go, you solved the problem. But no, he's just like,
Yeah.
first I'll let him free, and then we'll let him walk away, and then I'll tell you to go see what he has in his pocket. And now he doesn't have it in his pocket anymore.
Yeah, they definitely had some situations in this that were kind of dumb to let characters keep getting away with things or prevent characters from figuring things out earlier.
Yeah.
But I think it was handled better here than it was in Ambassadors of Death, because I think the overall pacing of this one still benefited well from it to allow the Doctor to get to the parallel world.
Yeah.
And then in the parallel world, it obviously makes sense why nobody's listening to him until they kind of have no choice.
Yeah. And just some notes that this is the last time we will see the original TARDIS console prop, because
Okay.
it has been breaking down over the years. They replaced some of the switches were replaced in these last two stories, and then they just realized that like the whole thing is not salvageable. So I don't know how different it
that's
looks,
sad.
but it's a different prop at least next time we see it.
I see.
And then Sergeant Benton was in both these stories, and he was in the Invasion. I can't.
Yeah,
I think he was like.
he's kind of one of the other recurring unit characters.
Yeah, he was the guy who, the actor was hired to play a Cyberman in that story, but then he was given the role of Benton after the other guy was fired for being late all the time. So he just
Yeah.
lucked his way into getting a recurring role.
Yep. Yeah, I remember we talked about that originally too. Good for Benton.
Yeah, and then he got to play a villain in this one because he was one of the Prime Lords as well.
That's true. He did the alternate version of him did die.
Yep.
Or, became a monster.
And this is the final story that is over 6 episodes long. So luckily they're all a bit shorter from here forward. And also this is the favorite serial of both Caroline John and Nicholas Courtney. They both enjoyed it quite a bit.
I can imagine why. They got to do a lot in this story.
Yeah.
And they even got to play, completely different versions of their characters. So
Yeah.
it really got to flex their skills as actors.
I think they both quite enjoyed being villains in this. They love doing
I can
that.
imagine.
And I find it funny that it was like the Doctor invented an automatic garage door opener, which I think already existed in the time. I'm not sure.
I mean, he just calls it a door handle.
Yeah.
When they first used it, I thought that was just like his sonic screwdriver, and he's just using it on the door. No, it's for some reason a very specific tech made just for that. All right.
Yeah. And then everyone's impressed by it, but like I'm pretty sure automatic garage door openers already existed at that time. I'm not sure
That's
exactly,
pretty
but
funny,
like it's a thing that they already know about.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely pretty funny.
Yeah, this is a very, very good story. Quite enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely my favorite of the whole season.
Yeah. The other notes I have is that Petra Williams, she was originally going to be played by Kate O'Mara, and if you recognize that name, it's because she will show up way later in Doctor Who as the Ronnie.
Oh,
So
interesting.
she was
Okay.
the original actress hired for that role, and then she couldn't do it, and then I think the actress that did it is like the wife of the director or something. So
Oh, okay.
last minute got her. I kind of liked that, like the budding romance between Petra and Greg Sutton.
Yeah, I thought it was well done. I think at first it was a little weird, but like as they worked together more and interacted more and like survived together, I do think it made more sense as it
Yeah,
went on.
it slowly got better.
Yeah, yeah.
And apparently, Greg Sutton becomes friends with Ian Chesterton in expanding universe stuff.
Good. I like that.
Yeah. I think they mentioned that like one of the doctors and Ian both went to Greg and Petra Williams's wedding.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I don't think I have much else notes wise here.
Okay. Then I think that means it's time for us to look back on season 7 as a whole.
I think it, you know, every doctor so far has had a very good first season.
Yeah,
Very strong
they really
starts.
have. And like really well established like who the doctor is in their first seasons.
Yeah. And I think they really showed that like the different idea for the third doctor could work very well in this season, I think.
Yeah.
Because sure, he's stuck on Earth in one time zone, but they still tell very different stories in that concept.
I think my only problem is 3 out of 4 of these stories are Unit is involved in this like scientific lab, this scientific experiment. Unit has to oversee it, and the doctor is there, and the higher up at the facility hates the doctor's guts for it because he's getting in the way of my work. He's getting in the way of my science. He's taking my clout, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
That happens in 3 out of 4 of these. So I really liked this season. I liked the kind of stories they told, but when you take a step back and look at, even though one was a nuclear reactor, one was a drill site, and one was basically a space station, like NASA,
Yeah.
it is very similar. A very similar premise across each one that, yes, the doctor's a good scientist, and other scientists feel challenged by him. But I kind of hope we move past that in the next season and
Yeah.
we get a bit more variety. Because you have that on top of the fact that our main companion, Liz, is also a scientist.
Yeah.
It does make me worry that the show is now so focused on the science instead of the adventure that it's missing a little bit of the point of every season before it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, obviously next season's going to be very different though, because we have a
Right.
recurring villain for the whole season. So we'll see how different that is. But yeah, they definitely were ultimately very similar concepts. I think they were probably struggling to find like ways to start stories, essentially, because it's like they're stuck. They're just stuck on Earth, and they have to figure out like how do we start something, and it's just like, well, I mean, science always gets into trouble.
Yeah, and like it absolutely makes sense why it goes that route. But I think it's worth noting that when you make the Doctor fill a largely science-specific role, and you have the main companion be a scientist herself, and the premise for 3 out of the 4 episodes are going to different scientific locations and interfering with them, and the higher-ups that are also scientists don't like the Doctor,
Yeah.
it starts to feel a little samey until you get into the nitty-gritty specifics of each episode.
Yeah. It's ultimately
But I do
basically
want to
just
stress,
like
I liked these. I
Yeah.
did really like these. There's just a lot of similarities.
it's basically just like the base Under Siege story essentially came back, and just
Yeah.
they're trying to do that in this new context, I guess. But yeah, I do kind of hope there's a bit more variety next season.
Yeah. I hope so too.
I did like the stories that they told with aliens though, because like we had a comment on our last episode. Empress of Ego commented that like it's nice that the Silurians is a much more complicated story than just like there's one race that's the oppressor and there's one that's the oppressed, and because that's
Yeah.
like every single alien story in the first 2 Doctors basically was that story. So I like
That's
that they're
very true.
it, the Silurians is like both sides have good people and bad people, and then the Ambassadors
Yep.
of Death is mostly the bad people are the humans. And then the aliens are just like, well, they kill people by touching them, and they didn't know that the first time they ran into humans. So
Yeah,
that's where the
it's not their
conflict
fault.
comes from. So I like that there's more complex stories being told here.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. It makes the world and the characters far more interesting too.
Yeah. I guess the Autons is really like the only simple, just like it's an alien invasion.
Yeah, and that's okay because that's also your fresh regeneration story as well. So
Yeah. But yeah, and then also, even though Liz doesn't have a goodbye scene, she is going away now. 'Cause
yeah, I wanted to ask about that. Does she not get like a goodbye scene in like the opening of the next season, or like no like mention from the Brigadier and the Doctor about where she went or anything like that?
I think there's just like a brief mention that she went back to Cambridge, but essentially it's just they decided not to renew her contract, and that's what
That's a
happened.
shame.
She did also find out though, during Ambassadors of Death, she found out she was pregnant. So even if they did renew her
Okay.
contract, she probably would have said like, "Well, I can't do it." So
Yeah.
they decided not to renew her contract, but she probably would have had to quit anyways. So
Gotcha.
it worked out.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's not like she's not like upset about it because it kind of played out that way anyway.
Yeah.
I see. I still would have liked a goodbye scene from her.
Yeah.
Even though like the implication isn't that she's leaving here. Some sort of goodbye scene from her later on would have been nice, but
Yeah.
I mean, especially since like as a character, she's very interesting because she is not the Doctor's companion in the traditional sense that we're all used to. He calls her his assistant.
Yeah.
And that very much feels like how she's portrayed. She very much seems like a co-scientist to the Doctor. She is, the assistant scientist alongside with him. Very much as good of a scientist, learning new things from him with, all the extra tech and everything. But very capable, and he relies on her just as much, which is good.
Yeah.
But it definitely is very different than your typical like companion dynamic that we've seen in both classic and modern.
Yeah. Like in most of the stories, she's basically just helping the Doctor with like whatever scientific thing they need in that episode.
Yeah,
More or
and
less
like
what she's
pretty
there
much
for.
just that.
Yeah. I feel like it's hard to have a strong opinion on her just because like they really didn't flesh her out all that well. Because you kind of need a bit more time to flesh out a character.
Yeah, like we went over it in the first episode with her, how like she was very skeptic.
Yeah.
She was very skeptical to like everything about the Doctor, and then she kind of just turned that off in the middle of the story and just immediately worked with him, no problem. And we kind of saw that persist throughout here. And the most depth to her character we got otherwise was her parallel world version, which was more so who she would be if there was fascism and
Yeah.
she didn't meet the Doctor, and if she wasn't a dedicated scientist. Like, but all we really had there was just the Doctor reminding her, like, yes, she loves science, and getting her to trust him.
Yeah.
That's really it. There wasn't, even with that, they didn't really explore too much of the depth of her character other than she's a woman scientist. Isn't that cool?
Yep, pretty much. Apparently, mainly it's that the current producer really just didn't really like the character because the character was made by. There was the temporary producer that did War Games and Spearhead from Space, and he's the one that came up with her character. And then this current producer just like didn't really like the character, so they just
Yeah.
got rid of her as soon as they could.
I see. Okay.
And I guess yeah, like since they didn't really like the character, you can normally tell that they just don't do anything with the character.
Yeah. I still think she was handled better than some of the earlier companions that just weren't handled well.
Yeah.
Because she actually had things to do. She filled a specific role, but the problem is she filled a specific role that wasn't the companion. She was just a recurring character like the Brigadier.
Yeah. Next season we get it's Joe Grant, right? I think it's
Hey, alright.
yeah. So we get
Yes.
a much an iconic character next season,
Yes, we get an iconic companion coming up.
and then she's here for 3 seasons with us.
Okay.
Caroline John did come back to Big Finish as Liz Shaw for a bit, but then she passed away in 2012. But her daughter took over the role of Liz Shaw in Big Finish, so that's nice. Apparently she does.
So is Liz in a lot of extended media then?
I'm not sure exactly how much, but at least a little bit.
Okay.
Because like, it's mostly just stuff like still while they're stuck on Earth. So I don't know if she really does crossovers or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Liz also comes back for the Five Doctors in Dimensions in Time as well. So
As the third Doctor's companion, I imagine.
We'll briefly see her again.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, Liz feels like the perfect character they could have brought back for something like Torchwood or Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah.
Like, in the modern era, of, like, someone involved with the unit, someone involved with the Doctor, and a scientist. Someone who would be very good for those roles. That's kind of surprising they haven't used her character in those contexts.
I think there was, like, like in the 90s, there was a company that was putting on, like, Doctor Who related stuff, and I think Liz Shaw came back for, like, essentially, like, a scientific spin-off sort of thing in that.
Nice.
So it's like sort of kind of Torchwood-esque, but it's like not officially licensed by the BBC sort of thing, you know?
Right, okay, I see.
But yeah, I think she's like a main character in like some side stuff in that area. Okay. I haven't really looked that deep into that kind of stuff though.
That's fair.
But yeah. I'm looking forward to next season. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely looking forward to more of this Doctor, because I really liked his first season, and I really like the impressions he's made thus far. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him and the Brigadier and the rest of the extended cast that he brings in with him.
Yeah. It's going to be good. We did get a little bit of news recently, which is that the 13th Doctor Big Finish first story has gotten a synopsis and a title.
Oh.
So it's called Vampire Weekend. And the synopsis is, it's Gina's Hindu and her maid of honor has booked a large manor in the Peak District. All her friends should be here, including Yasmin Khan, who's been mysteriously quiet while away on her travels. But Yaz is bringing a guest, someone who isn't invited, someone who might prove a little disruptive. The Doctor is joining the celebrations, and unfortunately, so is an ancient enemy.
Oh.
So, I think it's a bit... I think it's a bit odd that they say Yaz is away on her travels, just because, like, if this is after Ryan and Graham are no longer there, then, like, she was on Earth for 10 months there. So she wasn't away on travels for a little while.
Yeah, so this is probably however long after she's been traveling with the Doctor after they left. Maybe another year. Who knows?
Although, I guess...
We don't really get a good time frame of how long she was doing that for.
Since it is a bachelorette party, though, like, it could just be that... It could be earlier on in their timeline. And just, like, that's Ryan true. And Graham just aren't invited.
Yeah, that's true.
That could be it.
That's true. Could be a whole thing of, well, you know, you were there for my grandma's wedding, so
yeah.
You can come to my friend's wedding, too.
Yeah, I guess even when she was on Earth, though, she was apparently stuck in that TARDIS the whole time trying to figure out a way to get back to the Doctor. So
yeah,
people could still think she was away on travels.
That's true. She did kind of ignore the outside world most of the time.
Yeah. They even mentioned that, like, she didn't know it was New Year's.
Yep.
I think Vampires is going to be a fun story, though. I guess it depends exactly...
Yeah, I think so.
...what kind of vampire we're talking about.
That's true. There's been a few.
Yeah. It sounds like a fun story, though.
Yeah, it does. I'm excited for it. I'm definitely looking forward to more of the the audio stories with 13 and Yaz, because I think they can get some really fun stories out of it and really further flesh out those characters.
I'm just kind of fascinated to hear, like normally Big Finish likes to tell stories that are just consecutively, like, they're right after each other. So I'm a bit fascinated to know, like are all 10 of these going to be, or it's 12 in a row, or is it going to be like they're going to jump around in their timelines? Because we don't really know how that's going to work, because they haven't really done this sort of release schedule sort of thing until now.
Yeah, that's true.
Because normally it's like, they're
That's
going to
true.
do
We gotta see.
multiple box sets in a row, and then normally those box sets are just like box set 1 and then box set 2, like they lead into each other. Whereas here it's
Yeah.
12 episodes, so like they might lead into each other, or they might just be like jumping around in their timelines and stuff. Same goes for the ninth
Yeah,
Doctor.
it's hard to say. Well, at least for the Ninth Doctor, we know it has to take place during that season.
Yeah.
Or just before that season, if it's not with Rose. But, like, yeah, with this one, it could definitely be a lot more flexible.
Yeah, because even if that like they haven't said any of the other companions are coming back, but that could just be because they're only coming back for like one episode, and then they could just jump around like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see about that. 13th Doctor one is in July, and then I think
Okay.
9th Doctor was August for the first one.
Yeah, and then at that point, they come out every month they alternate.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Nice.
But yeah, just if you want to join us on our journey here, we do have a Patreon. So for just $1 a month, you can get into our Discord, where we'll encourage discussions between episodes about what we're watching, and you can also get early access to episodes that way. Then for the higher tier, which is $5 a month, you can watch live as we record. We will have a live text chat that we can chat with, and you can tell us how the Ambassadors of Death is way better than Inferno. But for our next episode, we are starting Season 8 with Terror of the Autons, which is 4 episodes, and The Mind of Evil, which is 6 episodes. So Terror of the Autons, obviously, is bring back the Autons, but it's also introducing us to the Master.
All right. It begins.
And then, yeah, Roger Delgado's Master is with us, apparently for the entirety of Season 8, and then he has, like, Season 9 and 10, he's there for some of it. I don't know how much he's in those two. But then, unfortunately, he passes away before Season 11, so he doesn't get to be... He has a tragic car accident, so he doesn't get to have, like, a proper final story send-off there.
I see.
They were writing one, and then, yeah, he passed away. So, they didn't get to film that one. And I guess it's probably going to be, like, after this episode, I think then we will probably be doing our new Season 1 after that. Because, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because... Yeah, our two episodes from now, we should be recording right after the finale of this season. So, we'll probably take a break after that one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure out a proper schedule for that as it gets closer, of course.
Yeah, but just as a reminder, make sure to watch Terror of the Autons and The Mind of Evil before our next episode. You can find those on BBC iPlayer and Tubi TV. And if you support us on Patreon for $1 a month, you can gain access to our Discord, as well as early access to episodes. I've been Joy. You can find me on social media at JoyContent.
And I've been Triss. You can find me on social media at ToonTriss.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.